Welcome back to Yours, Mine, and Ours.
We're here today with our daughter, and we're going to talk about cancel culture.
My generation's term of cancel culture and our understanding of that versus how your generation might understand.
They're all three
that.
different generations.
Yeah. Which makes this podcast
It's
very
great.
very
It's great.
insightful.
I don't think we didn't have that word growing up or anything like that. It wasn't cancel culture. It was more rejection, judgment, those kind of things.
Well, so cancel culture is what would happen to people based on a statement that they made. And we were taking the large scale of cancel culture that you'll see in society where someone has a controversial opinion or differs from the mainstream beliefs and they kind of get removed from society or cast out or not allowed to have a voice.
Yeah, not allowed to have a voice.
And we were looking at the smaller scale of that can happen in family where you see a whole family that maybe all identifies with certain religious views or different political views, and if
Sexual
someone
orientation.
Yeah.
anything like that, if
Mhm.
someone disagrees with that or is like the black sheep, they
Yeah.
might get
Yep.
canceled, outcast. So we're just gonna talk.
Excommunicated.
Yep, that was a big term for religions, excommunicated.
Which like reverts back to like exile.
Yeah, yeah.
And being social creatures of having this need to feel like we belong and can rely on community and contribute to community, because both of those are needed for humans to be able to rely and to contribute to something for our mental sanity.
It's the environment in which we thrive the best. We're pack animals. We're not meant to be alone. That's why the worst punishment you get is like 23-hour lockdown in prison.
Right. And I think in our generation, it wasn't so out there. It wasn't so bold.
No.
I mean, like in families, there could be times where people were like excommunicated, or even we just don't associate with them or we don't talk to them, that kind of thing. But it wasn't like on a widespread scale. And I feel like now it's much more broad scale. We have a very much us and them. If you're not us, then, you're not good, you're not whatever. I just think in our generation, it was less broad scale. You would see it happen in families. You would see it happen in like church environments, religious environments, where if somebody started to think or believe differently, then they would be, it wasn't necessarily canceled, but they could be excommunicated or something like that. Cancel culture is a way bigger issue, I think, but it's happening to all of us. It's happening everywhere.
I think cancel culture is just the reflection of a society that's been programmed to shun what is different.
There you go.
And so now we're seeing, even in our influencers and the people that we pay so much attention to, when it happens, it feels so drastic because this one person that had such a following, so much support, was definitely giving and receiving from society in a major way, might share something very controversial, and instead of embracing that we all kind of have different views and realities that we live by,
Right.
someone gets totally shunned. And there's also a difference between someone really putting out harmful or exclusive or rejecting messages towards people, but there's got to be a better way to put responsibility and ownership and learning from something like that, rather than that's gone, let's not look at it and ignore it because it still exists.
I just feel like we're like so extreme on both things. Like we've been so emotionally dead, so to speak. You know what I mean? For so many years that everything gets like pushed to like one side or the other. Like if we don't ever find like this happy median where we're not, we still have grace for people having flaws and still have a open heart for people who are different. Right. All those things. It's just like we're just at the extreme right now where we're like, oh, everybody must be accountable, and it's got to be like you end all,
Yeah.
death for
I
their
also think
career
it's the fear of the unknown.
Oh, absolutely.
There's so much. I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm an extreme case because I remember growing up and not being able to be associated with the world or anything. And I had so much fear that it was really scary anytime there was anything new or something I didn't understand or something that I didn't know about. Now that I've gotten rid of that fear of everything, I'm able to be more like when something that you don't understand, I'm able to have more of an open mind and look at lots of different perspectives of that instead of just staying in my own bubble and just believing what I've heard and not actually interacting with somebody or not actually getting to know somebody else's heart. A lot changes when you start to listen to other people and hear their heart, hear their perspective, hear where they came from. And I think that's what's missing out of a lot of, cancel culture stuff.
Right, because a person is much more than just a moment. So they had a whole series of experiences that led them to the exact places that they are and what they're saying and what they're believing and how they're acting. And so if we can take that as opportunity to understand or learn something new and then realize that whole series of experiences probably rippled out to society in many other ways, that all of those stepping stones do exist to be confronted. And I also wanted to say that, Dad, I feel like you have a very strong sense of kind of middle ground, and where you're able to see extremes as less of huge sways that's like right or wrong or one or the other, and kind of have your own path that includes everything.
I agree with that. And with regards to bringing Nita into our relationship and starting yours, mine, and ours, how have we been affected by anything on that?
Well, I think in the early days before we were out, it was a lot tougher. Now that we're out and we're so at peace with it, we've done the work. We've done the homework. We've done all of that. I feel like for me personally, I can have people come at me now because I'm at peace with where I'm at. When you know exactly what you've been through, what you've done, and you're at peace with where you're at, it's easier to, when people want to attack or want to reject or whatever else, that feels easier now than when you might be, when we weren't out, it was a little bit more difficult because I think we were still building on all of that.
Yeah, now I would say it's more of how maybe our children might be affected, or what they might think if they have strong disagreements or whatever else, and us trying to walk the line of being, thoughtful of their feelings and everything else, but yes, being true to ourselves and what we want.
Right. An interesting story. Trent and I both, before we got married, when we were still dating, we both recognized that neither one of us had a relationship with our parents where we felt like we could talk to them about anything. We also felt like our parents couldn't relate to us, like what we were going through, which was interesting because they were our age at one time, And so I remember him and I having a conversation that when we get married and when we have kids, we always want to be relatable to our kids. We always wanted our kids to be able to come to us, ask us anything and not feel judged, not feel rejected, anything like that. So I feel like we've done a really good job, and I'm super excited that our kids have found that they can come to us with anything. Zoe can speak to that.
I can totally speak on that, because it's so interesting to find that the safest place where you can bring your most, I don't know about this one, or this feels like I have all these questions, or things that may feel controversial, or things that I just don't know about because I haven't yet experienced that, and be able to lay it all out on the table, and that safe space be my parents and be people that are navigating their own lives, and be
that's a blessing.
Really the makeups of parts of exactly who I am, get to witness my life and my feelings, and get to speak encouragement into that, and get to speak wisdom into that is so beneficial. And so I also realized that took me being an open place for them, because they kind of journeyed before I did. Journeys happen at the same time, but them changing so much from the parents that I used to have to them now, there was an openness in me for what is this bringing them, and it was bringing them life and joy and discovery, and obviously the challenges as well, but the freedom with that, and their ability to be so open with me and show me all of their messiness throughout that, and that it's not this smooth, perfect life that you're trying to strive for. It's growing in the midst of all of it, in the full range of the spectrum of the feelings that you might encounter, and meeting each other intimately in that, and being able to embrace all those sides of our humanity.
Yeah.
And so to see that in my parents, who sometimes kids, you put parents on a pedestal and you're like, okay, these are people that expect me to be the perfect thing because they are the perfect thing, and they put on these phases, or something where you want to either earn their approval, or you never see their mess, so you never feel comfortable sharing your mess.
Right.
So having parents that are like, here is our mess, here is our life, here is our freedom, here's everything, like, this makes me feel so free to do the same. And in offering that, we learn from each other, and we go through very similar just internal experiences of the lives that we're having that we can then relate. And now I feel like I tell everyone all the time, I'm like, yeah, they're like my best friends, because it's people I'm so close with.
And what's interesting is we were strategic, and we just didn't to our kids as far as here's our life, and here's what we're doing, and here's our freedoms, and what do you think? We waited until we felt like our kids were ready.
Each one,
communicated.
And it
with
happened
them.
at different times for each child.
Yep, it did.
Yeah. And it was kind of when they brought something to us, because they didn't even know necessarily about what journey we were on, per se.
Right.
So
it was beautiful. It was beautiful for us to be able to share with each one of our kids. And it was the right timing and all of that. It just felt really, really cool.
To be a source of information for, or like a wealth of information for your child.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally what you want to be as a parent, like that's, that's what you strive for. So to be that safe place is really special.
And there's a huge felt emotional difference from getting advice from your parent who's reading a script from the things that they've heard from other people.
Right.
It's such a different form of connection from, here was my lived experience that gave me these emotions, gave me these questions, gave me these hard feelings, gave me these good feelings. Like, getting to receive that from your parents is so valuable compared to, this is what the Bible says, or this is what
I've heard.
This is the right thing and this is the wrong thing. Because then it takes away that place where you're kind of like naked and vulnerable to life. Of, I was touched somewhere. Like, I was touched by life, by this moment, by this experience, and now I'm transferring that to you. And that is so valuable and so worthy to carry, rather than just this thing I'm very removed from, but I live my life by. And these constructs have told me this. And then, if you ask questions, then it gets uncomfortable because it's not rooted in the foundation of that person's essence. It's rooted in, well, I don't know. And so if you start poking at it, then that's all you get.
Yeah, I want to propose something. So, as we raised our children, we gave them, I feel like we gave them the wisdom and the stuff that we felt that we had that they're going to need for life. And then after that point, we trusted them. And I want to propose that, because I was in the church world for a long time, the religious world, it feels like there's a lack of trust for humanity, or for, even if you want to say God's people. Like, we were given life as a gift, and we should use it as a gift. And I believe, if you want to say God, higher power, universe, the universe trusts us with that when we get connected. Does it, when we're connected with the earth, when we're connected with people, when we're connected with the planet, I want to suggest that we all start trusting people more. Like, for us, we started trusting our kids. Like, yes, they may make mistakes. Yes, they may make a bad decision, but the best teacher is experience. So as parents, we were still there for them, even if they may have chose something that we might not have thought was the best for them. We still wanted them to learn and grow, and to learn that process, and to trust them that they're going to not always make the right decisions, not always whatever, but they are going to produce a life that they love and that they want to be in. And so I guess I feel like in our generation, we didn't trust that. We didn't trust people to live their own life, make their own decisions, and become beautiful people. Instead, we had to put all these rules in place that actually cause people to go outside of that and make messes. whenever you try to confine, I mean, you tell a kid don't touch, what's the kid gonna do? Touch. So I feel like we need to start trusting more, trusting our kids, giving them opportunities to make a mistake, and then talking about that and give, with the wisdom that they can gain by doing the journey and by making mistakes and by learning and growing. And that could be part of what's wrong with our world, is that we don't allow people that. I mean, when kids learn to walk, we let them try and try and try, and they fall and fall and fall, but pretty soon they master it. We do that with all kinds of things when kids are little, riding a bike, all those kinds. But as soon as they get a little bit older, we stop all the communication. We stop teaching them things. Like, we stop letting them make mistakes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we have an expectation. I mean, as parents, we expect our teenage children to rebel. I mean, and to be disconnected with us.
That is kind of a thing.
I
People
mean,
think.
we just realize that, okay, there's this period of time where they're not going to care what we think and everything else, and maybe when they're 25, then we can become friends again. And what we've learned is actually by being vulnerable with our children, our teenage children, that we could actually keep a connection. Now, there's definitely going to be kids as they start to gain independence. There's going to be challenging things. That's going to be normal. But we still want to be able to, while they're under our roof, be able to ask those questions and be able to get that support that really they can't really get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
it's something that is missing in today's society, is
I agree with that.
teenagers with parents being able to, or young adults with parents, to be able to have that connection and be able to learn and grow together.
And
But
to
that is
have-
being a safe place. That's that platform.
Yes.
You've got to have that safe place. Like, I don't know what I would, like, or what Malachi would have done without, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Him going through what he was going through, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And him having a place to be able to express that.
Yeah.
That would have, that, and how many kids that are out there that can't identify.
Well, and like your son, and I know some of our kids did that too, when they actually test you to see,
Yes.
are you really still going to be safe for me?
Yes.
I mean, I remember when we recognized that, a couple of our kids would do that on purpose, like try to test us, either say or do the wild craziest thing, or said they did the wild craziest thing to get our reaction. Are we still going to be a safe place for them? Are we still going to go, tell me more about that? How did that make you feel? What did you learn from that? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Like, it gave us that platform.
Yeah. Because as parents, it's almost like we're afraid to share with our children things that we go through, because it's going to give them a license to do that and beyond, right? So especially in religion, we were taught to shelter and shield our children from reality, and also then to just produce through fear, saying don't do what I did, don't do what I do, or don't do what I did, but just do what I say,
Right.
And it's pretty crazy how we just
I mean, and the fear of hell is always there in
Yeah.
religion. I mean, like, that tries to make everybody behave, but fear does not work.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
well,
Fear.
And when you take the vulnerability out of it and it's
Yeah.
do what I say rather than here was my experience,
Right,
here's what
right.
it felt like, here's what I learned, here's the wisdom I had, and
Right.
I'm being open to you so that you can receive all that my life experience has offered me. But if we refuse to be vulnerable because I don't want them to know anything
Right.
that I did, because I don't want them to do anything that I did, you're now creating this, okay, I'm completely on my own, I've got to now test all the waters behind my parents' back because
Yep.
they're not a source for me to learn anything.
Yeah.
And I also just want to say I attribute all of my resilience to the fact that I was trusted to grow. I was trusted to make mistakes. Like, there were times I found myself in situations that were really only teaching me how to have a spine because I was giving too much away, or I was doing things that were obviously going against my own happiness or my own best interest. And I would tell my parents this, and they didn't say, get out of that situation. They said, what are you learning? How
How's
are
it
you
working out for
feeling?
you?
How's that
What's
working
the
out for you?
experience you're experiencing? And they never had a thing of, okay, I think you should do this. They would just be like, okay, like, it's not like they would sometimes give reflections. This is what it sounds like. How does that make you feel? But then when I found myself on the other side of that experience, having found all the courage within me to get out of that because of my love for myself, I was able to look at them as such supporters because they trusted my strength they didn't come and have to impose their own strength because they doubted my ability,
Right.
which then would just lower my self-esteem. But they really were like, we trust you to handle this completely, and we will be voices of encouragement, but we aren't going to step in and do anything for you that you can't do for yourself. And that's created me to feel like such a strong and courageous person to live my life and to experience these things. So thank you.
Well, when you see you do it once, like when you see her walk it out, you know what I mean, without like anybody holding her hand, you're like, oh. But I do always have my doubts. I'm not gonna lie. No matter how many times you do, I'm like, oh shit.
So sometimes she's the parent for you. And we're like, it's okay. It's okay. She'll be okay.
Anytime I ever bring anyone home, I'm like, well, you don't have to worry about my parents. They're super welcoming and they trust me so much. But you might want to worry about Nita. She might give you a hard time.
She'll read you your rights.
But she also has a really good intuition, so if she does something about someone, I am
Worldly
like,
wise.
okay, I receive
You're
that
good,
completely because she can read people.
Yes,
very
she's a
accurately.
very good judge of people.
That's experience
Yes.
with all different kinds.
Yes.
So I guess the biggest takeaway for relating this to cancel culture is just when we don't trust people in that their life experience is exactly what they need in order to grow, and that sometimes the expression of that looks very
Messy.
different, very messy,
Yeah.
very ugly or out there, or just something that we don't understand. Instead of completely shunning them, we actually welcome them into the space of, this is a learning process.
Yeah.
This is something we're all experiencing. And then we don't have to be so fragmented out. We can actually come together and use the wisdom of each other's experience to understand how to better shape a society that completely trusts each other to live it out.
Would you equate that to like restorative justice?
Yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
about
Yeah, that's
reformation and
Yeah.
restoration, and I truly believe in
Just canceling something does nothing to restore somebody, does nothing to help bridge gaps, it does nothing for connection.
That's
When you
what's
just
broken in our society.
Yeah.
That's what's breaking down humanity.
and
It
it's
really
just
is.
us and them all the time, and you're not like me, so I cancel you, and all that. It just
it just creates a bigger and a bigger shadow the more that we don't look at.
Yeah. I think that's the power of the media, though. I really do. I swear. And I just really want to speak to this. Like, everybody that's listening out there that thinks you're different or strange or unusual, like, that is the power that they have against us, is that we're weaker apart. We're
Right.
stronger together. You know what I mean? They don't want us all united, because there would be a revolt where people, fight for the things that they believe in. Sometimes it happens in riots and usually in ugly ways. But if we could really just, like,
If
not
we
feel so
all
scared of something
all
that doesn't
connect
look the
to
same
be
as you.
for something, for unity.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on all our social media.
And join us next week for our next episode.
Have a great day.